Hey guys, as you can see, it's still dark here. It's very early in the morning. Hope you guys are doing well. I love you very much, of course. And of course, like always, it's time for some Harry Potter. And you go right to bed after you watch these, right? You don't have Nana and Grandpa play them again? Or read another book, right? Maybe you do, I don't know. Okay. So they're at the Yule Ball, and Harry has just seen Hermione with Victor Crumb. She's his partner at the dance. It now occurred to Harry that he had never actually heard Crumb speak before, but he was certainly talking now, and very enthusiastically at that. Well, we have a castle also not as big as this, nor as comfortable, I am thinking, he was telling Hermione. We have just 4 floors, and the fires are lit only for magical purposes. But we have grounds larger even than these, though in winter we have very little daylight, so we are not enjoying them. But in summer we are flying every day over the lakes and mountains. Now, Victor, said Karkaroff with a laugh that didn't reach his cold eyes. Don't go giving away anything else now, or your charming friend will know exactly where to find us. Dumbledore smiled, his eyes twinkling. Igor, all this secrecy, one would almost think you didn't want visitors. Well, Dumbledore, said Karkaroff, displaying his yellowing teeth to their fullest extent, we're all protective of our private domains, are we not? Do we not jealously guard the halls of learning that we have been entrusted with? Are we not right to be proud that we alone know our school secrets and right to protect them? Oh, I would never dream of assuming I know all of Hogwarts' secrets, Igor, said Dumbledore amicably. Only this morning, for instance, I took a wrong turning on the way to the bathroom and found myself in a beautifully proportioned room I have never seen before, containing a really rather magnificent collection of chamber pots. When I went back to investigate more closely, I discovered that the room had vanished, but I must keep an eye out for it. Possibly it is only accessible at 5:30 in the morning, or it may only appear in the quarter moon, or when the seeker has an exceptionally full bladder. Harry snorted into his plate of goulash. Percy frowned, but Harry could have sworn Dumbledore had given him a very small wink. Meanwhile, Fleur Delacour was criticizing the Hogwarts decorations to Roger Davies. This is nothing, she said dismissively, looking around at the sparkling walls of the great hall. At the Palace of Beauxbatons, we have ice sculptures all around the dining chamber at Christmas. They do not melt, of course. They are like huge statues of diamond, glittering all over the place. And the food is simply superb, and we have choirs of wood nymphs so to serenade us as we eat. We have none of this ugly armor in the halls, and if a poltergeist ever entered into Beauxbatons, we would be expelled like that. She slapped her hand onto the table impatiently. Roger Davies was watching her talk with a very dazed look on his face, and he kept missing his mouth with his fork. Harry had the impression that Davies was too busy staring at Fleur to take in a word she was saying. Absolutely right, he said quickly, slapping his own hand down on the table in imitation of Fleur. Like that, yeah. Harry looked around the hall. Hagrid was sitting at one of the other staff tables. He was back in his horrible Harry Brown suit and gazing up at the top table. Harry saw him give a small wave, and looking around saw Madame Maxime return it, her opals glittering in the candlelight. Hermione was now teaching Crumb to say her name properly. He kept calling her Hermione. Hermione, she said slowly and clearly. Hermione. Close enough, she said, catching Harry's eye and grinning. When all the food had been consumed, Dumbledore stood up and asked the students to do the same. Then, with a wave of his wand, all the tables zoomed back along the walls, leaving the floor clear, and then he conjured a raised platform into existence along the right wall. A set of drums, several guitars, a lute, a cello, and some bagpipes were set upon it. That's an interesting combination of musical instruments. The Weird Sisters now trooped up onto the stage to wildly enthusiastic applause. They were all extremely hairy and dressed in black robes that had been artfully ripped and torn. They picked up their instruments, and Harry, who had been so interested in watching them that he had almost forgotten what was coming, suddenly realized that the lanterns on all the other tables had gone out, and that the other champions and their partners were standing up. Uh-oh, he's got to dance. Come on, Parvati hissed. We're supposed to dance. Harry tripped over his dress robes as he stood up. The Weird Sisters struck up a low, slow, mournful tune. Harry walked onto the brightly lit dance floor, carefully avoiding catching anyone's eye. He could see Seamus and Dean waving at him and sniggering. And next moment, Parvati had seized his hands, placed one around her waist, and was holding the other tightly in hers. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, Harry thought, revolving slowly on the spot. Parvati was steering. He kept his eyes fixed over the heads of the watching people, and very soon many of them, too, had come onto the dance floor, so that the champions were no longer the center of attention. Neville and Ginny were dancing nearby. He could see Ginny wincing frequently as Neville trod on her feet, and Dumbledore was waltzing with Madame Maxime. He was so dwarfed by her that the top of his pointed hat barely tickled her chin. However, she moved very gracefully for a woman so large. Mad-Eye Moody was doing an extremely ungainly two-step with Professor Sinestra, who was nervously avoiding his wooden leg. "Those socks, Potter," Moody growled as he passed, his magical eyes staring through Harry's robes. "Oh yeah, Dobby the house elf knitted them for me," said Harry, grinning. "He's so creepy," Parvati whispered as Moody clunked away. "I don't think that eye should be allowed." Harry heard the final quavering note from the bagpipe with relief. The weird sisters stopped playing. Applause filled the hall once more, and Harry let go of Parvati at once. "Let's sit down, shall we?" "Oh, but this is a really good one," Parvati said as the weird sisters struck up a new song, which was much faster. "No, I don't like it," Harry lied, and he led her away from the dance floor, past Fred and Angelina, who were dancing so exuberantly that people around them were backing away in fear of injury, and over to the table where Ron and Padma were sitting. "How's it going?" Harry asked Ron, sitting down and opening a bottle of butterbeer. Ron didn't answer. He was glaring at Hermione and Crumb, who were dancing nearby. Padma was sitting with her arms and legs crossed, one foot jiggling in time to the music. Every now and then she threw a disgruntled look at Ron, who was completely ignoring her. Parvati sat down on Harry's other side, crossed her arms and legs too, and within minutes was asked to dance by a boy from Beauxbatons. "You don't mind, do you, Harry?" Parvati said. "What?" said Harry, who was now watching Cho and Cedric. "Oh, never mind," snapped Parvati, and she went off with the boy from Beauxbatons. When the song ended, she did not return. Hermione came over and sat down in Parvati's empty chair. She was a bit pink in the face from dancing. "Hi," said Harry. Ron didn't say anything. "It's hot, isn't it?" said Hermione, fanning herself with her hand. "Victor's just gone to get us some drinks." Ron gave her a withering look. "Victor?" he said. "Hasn't he asked you to call him Vicky yet?" Hermione looked at him in surprise. "What's up with you?" she said. "If you don't know," said Ron scathingly, "I'm not going to tell you." Hermione stared at him, then at Harry, who shrugged. "Ron, what?" "He's from Durmstrang," spat Ron. "He's competing against Harry. Against Hogwarts. You're... Ron was obviously casting around for words strong enough to describe Hermione's crime. "Fraternizing with the enemy, that's what you're doing." Hermione's mouth fell open. "Don't be so stupid," she said after a moment. "The enemy? Honestly, who was the one who was all excited when they saw him arrive? Who was the one who wanted his autograph? Who's got a model of him up in his dormitory?" Ron chose to ignore this. "I suppose he asked you to come with him while you were both at the library?" "Yes, he did," said Hermione, the pink patches on her cheeks glowing more brightly. "So what?" "What happened? Trying to get him to join Spew, were you?" "No, I wasn't, if you really want to know. He said he'd been coming up to the library every day to try and talk to me, but he hadn't been able to pluck up the courage." Hermione said this very quickly, and blushed so deeply that she was the same color as Parvati's robes. "Yeah, well, that's his story," said Ron nastily. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Obvious, isn't it? He's Karkaroff's student, isn't he? He knows who you hang out with. He's just trying to get closer to Harry, get inside information on him, or get near enough to jinx him." Hermione looked as though Ron had slapped her. When she spoke, her voice quivered. "For your information, he hasn't asked me one single thing about Harry, not one." Ron changed tack at the speed of light. "Then he's hoping you'll help him find out what his egg means. I suppose you've been putting your heads together during those cozy little library sessions." "I'd never help him work out that egg," said Hermione, looking outraged. "Never! How could you say something like that? I want Harry to win the tournament. Harry knows that, don't you, Harry?" "You got a funny way of showing it," sneered Ron. "This whole tournament's supposed to be about getting to know foreign wizards and making friends with them," said Hermione hotly. "No, it isn't," shouted Ron. "It's about winning." People were starting to stare at them. "Ron," said Harry quietly, "I haven't got a problem with Hermione coming with Crumb." But Ron ignored Harry, too. "Once you go and find Vicky, he'll be wondering where you are," said Ron. "Don't call him Vicky." Hermione jumped up to her feet and stormed off across the dance floor, disappearing into the crowd. Ron watched her go with a mixture of anger and satisfaction on his face. "Are you going to ask me to dance at all?" Padma asked him. "No," said Ron, still glaring after Hermione. "Fine," snapped Padma, and she got up and went to join Parvati and the Beauxbatons boys, who conjured up one of his friends to join them so fast that Harry could have sworn he had zoomed him there by a summoning charm. And that's all for now. Love you guys very much. Have a good sleep, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.